Hello everybody, it's Dave again. Got a game here. It'll be an English opening. I'll be playing white. This game was played on the Fritz chess server or playchess.com. Time limit was 10 minutes plus 5, and the ECO code will be A17. We'll be looking at space advantage, forming a plan, and tunnel vision. And you'll see that as we get to it. Anyway, I was playing white, and I opened with c4, e6, knight c3, bishop to b4, and queen to b3, protecting my knight to avoid the doubling of pawns after he exchanges bishop takes knight. He plays a5, protecting his bishop. I played knight to f3, knight f6, g3, castle, bishop to g2, and knight to a6. As you can see, what Black plans to do is he plans to transfer his knight to c5, attacking my queen. I attack his bishop with a3, and he continues with knight to c5. I bring my queen to c2. He exchanges his bishop for my knight, and I recapture with my queen. He plays c6, and now I play d3, using my pawn to protect the e4 square, keeping his knights out. And he plays d5. I castle. He plays rook to e8, and now I play bishop to g5. An alternative here could have been, let's go back to his last move, rook to e8. I played c takes d5, queen takes d5, knight to d2, using my bishop with a discovered attack on his queen. Knight to a4, attacking my queen. I would have dropped back to c2 and then queen to b5. And now I would have had the idea of taking my knight from d2 to c4 to d6, attacking his rook and queen. So that would be my advantage there. But back to the game, he had played rook to e8, and then I played bishop to g5. He plays knight from c to d7. And now I play c5. And now I'm beginning my plan of I'm going to try to limit Black's space, tying up his pawns on the white squares, limiting the use of his light squared bishop. So that's my plan. That's what I'm going to do. I want to limit his space. He plays h6, and now I drop my bishop back to f4. And you can see now, with this pawn here and my bishop here, they do control, once I bring my bishop to d6, the dark squares in Black's position, limiting him even more. His white squared pawns limit a lot of movement, and now my dark squared bishop and pawn will limit his movement. He played b5, and I bring my bishop to d6, bishop to b7, and now I played d4. Tying up the pawns in the center. An alternative for me after bishop to b7 would be b4. He played a4, then of course that just completely blocks the queen side, and all play will then shift to the king side. And if you look at that, he will now have a rook and bishop completely out of play, because they won't have no place to go to, because of their being cramped on the queen side. Instead of a4, he could have played a takes b4. I responded a takes b4, and maybe then he played his bishop to a6, trying to preserve his rook and try to get a little bit more play there with his pieces. But as I said, he played bishop to b7, and I played d4, continuing with my idea of limiting his space. He plays knight to b6, which at first, when he first played it, I was ready to snatch it up. If I would have, it would have been c takes knight, and then queen takes d6, and whatever advantage I had would have been gone. Luckily, I did not play that. I looked at the position for more than a second, and I played b3. He plays knight to c8, attacking my bishop. I drop my bishop back to e5, knight to e7, knight to d2, and with the idea of two things here. I want to use my knight and bishop to help control the e4 square, and I also want to advance my f pawn. He plays knight to g6, attacking the bishop again. I played f4, reinforcing the bishop. He plays knight takes e5, f takes e5, and knight to d7. Still, I've been able to accomplish my goal of keeping him cramped, using my dark squared pawns to limit his movement of his light squared pawns. And of course, as you can see, his rook and bishop are still out of play, and even this knight has very little scope other than if he wants to play something like f6 and or bringing his rook over to back it up. But after knight to d7, I played queen to f3. Now this is where I talked about tunnel vision. I'm so preoccupied with the idea of keeping him locked up on the light squares, I missed a good continuation, and that would have been e4, maybe queen to g5, rook to f4, f6, e takes f6, knight takes f6, rook at a to f1, b4, a takes b4, and bishop to a6. Even though he's now activated his light squared bishop, of course I can just bring my rook up to like f2, and the bishop really has not much use on the king side where the game is really going to be decided. I've got both of my rooks, my bishop, I can bring my knight over, and I'll be able to bring my queen over very soon to play on the king side. So, like I said, I missed that continuation. It was found after the game, after I used my computer program Fritz to do some analysis, and it was the variation that it recommended highly over the move that I played in the game, which was queen to f3. He plays rook to f8, and now queen to h5, queen to g5. And at this point, where both players were getting a little low on time, and just to give you a little information, he plays queen takes g5, h takes, knight to f3, f6, and now bishop to h3 with the idea of capturing the e6 pawn, giving check, and winning the bishop. Of course, black saw that. He defended with rook at a to e8, played rook to f2, bishop to c8, rook at a to f1, doubling my rooks. Now he plays rook to f7. And this is a mistake. Usually when a player is cramped and the other person has the initiative, they have to make a move, and in this case black made a move and it was a bad move. And I took advantage of it, luckily. I played knight takes g5, rook at f to e7, knight to f3. So now I'm a pawn up, but I still have a long way to go before I win this game. Black played f takes e5, and now I played knight to e5, knight takes, pawn takes, and now rook to d8. He wants to hopefully push this pawn and get a little play from the position for him now. And of course I defended with rook to d1. He plays rook to d4, and I played rook to d3, stopping the advance of his pawn. Where a much simpler variation would have been after d4, I would have played e3, then d3, and then rook at f to d2, and I would have been able to bring in a third attacker to attack the d pawn, where the best black could do would bring his other rook over, and it would be 3 attackers versus 2 defenders, and I would have won a second pawn. But we were getting low on time. I know, poor excuse, but that's what happened, and I should have seen it, but I didn't. Anyway, I played rook to d3, stopping the pawn. He played rook to d5. I played rook to f4, and now black made another mistake, which was his final mistake. He wanted to protect the d4 pawn. He reacted to my threat with a bringing in another defender, but it cost him the game because I played bishop takes e6, check, forking his rooks, winning the exchange, and at this point my opponent resigned. So I hope you enjoyed the game. Hope you seen how I used my pawns on the dark squares to limit his movement of his pieces, and he was cramped, and as a result of being cramped, my opponent made some mistakes, and I was lucky enough to take advantage. So I thank you very much, and have a good day.